So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the channel. And in this video, I'm going to show you the exact hiring process that you have to undergo in order to hire a media buyer for your agency, for your SMMA. This is one of the most common questions that I get in regards to, the logistics around. Obviously, everybody knows the fact that they need to hire a media buyer. Everybody knows the role of a media buyer and whatnot. And I've even got other videos on this channel covering those exact ideas of what the role of a media buyer should be, what you should look for in a media buyer, what makes a perfect media buyer. But there's no videos, at least that I've seen on YouTube, that cover the specifics and the specific hiring process that you should go through to find that perfect media buyer that we always talk about to bring onto your team. So in this video, I'm going to cover a 7-step process. And if you action on this 7-step process, you'll find the perfect media buyer by virtue of this 7-step process that I'm going to show you in this video. Now guys, just before we jump into the video, I don't ask for anything in return, okay? I don't ever ask for anything in return for these free videos that I put up on YouTube. And it's not like I'm covering, just airy-fairy content. Like this 7-step hiring process that I'm literally gonna lay out for you is literally a 30,000 foot view of the exact hiring process that I go through within my own companies, right? So it's real stuff, real life stuff. And the only thing that I ask for in return is that you just take a split second to smash the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. I know it's cringy, but it does massively help out with the YouTube algorithm. It really does. So I would absolutely love it if you was able to go ahead, as I say, smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. And with that being said, let's just jump straight into the video. So got the trusty iPad out once again, and I'm just going to walk you through it. I'm going to detail the exact hiring process. I'm going to also walk through at each step exactly how you can conduct that specific step in the process at its highest possible level and get the best possible candidates through the hiring funnel so that you're able to make the best possible hire that you can for the media buyer position at your agency within your SMMA. So with that being said, let's just jump straight in. So first things first, and actually we're gonna jump straight into the deep end because to be honest guys, the most important step in this entire hiring process is the first step. Okay, and the reason being is because essentially the overarching hiring process looks something like this. So as I said to you before, there's essentially 7 steps within the hiring process. Okay, so each step, right, obviously funnels down into the next step. And essentially how you want to view this process and why it's a 7-step process is because you want to view it like this. So at each stage, you essentially want to see a drop off, right? Because then guess what? At the very end, you're gonna have that one person there, and this is who you want to get to eventually, right? This is the end goal of this entire process because this is your perfect hire right here, right? This person right here is your perfect hire. And you wanna be able to essentially take this person through a funnel such as this so that you're able to identify this person, because obviously at the top, at the beginning of the funnel, right? You're gonna be injecting maybe 50 people, 25 people, 100 people, 200 people, depending on the scale of your hiring process, right? So, you need to be able to funnel these people down that are coming into the process. You need to be able to funnel them down so that you're able to identify this person at the end here who you end up hiring. Now, how you do that is essentially via this process right here, okay? So, what is the process? What are the specific steps? Well, let's have a look at them. So, as I say, first step is the most important step. So step 1 is the most important step. And step 1 is a job description. Now the reason step 1, this job description, is the most important step throughout the entire process is because this is going to depict what type of person comes into your funnel. At the end of the day, we've got a funnel, and at the end of that funnel, there's gonna be one perfect candidate. There's gonna be one perfect person whom obviously you're gonna hire. But if we don't inject the right people into that overarching funnel, guess what? That one perfect person at the end they're going to be non-existent because they never came in, right? They never came into the funnel. So this job description right here, this depicts what type of person is going to come into the funnel, because this essentially sells the initial kind of idea of your job offering. Now, this is where I would say most agencies go wrong, but I would probably go as far as saying every agency owner goes wrong at this stage. Because every agency owner in this section literally says, I'm a media buyer, no, I'm an agency and I'm looking for an e-commerce media buyer. That's what they say in this section right here. That's it. That's all they say. And so guess what's going to happen in that instance? You're just going to attract the same talent as everybody else. You're going to attract the same type of people. And guess what? Top tier talent are not going to respond or react or get excited about a job post, about a job description that says, I'm looking for an e-commerce media buyer. They're not going to get excited about that. So you're going to attract the wrong people straight off the bat. So guess what's going to happen at that point? When it comes to making that perfect hiring decision, there's going to be no perfect candidates for you to choose from. So that's why I say this first section right here is by far the most important, because it literally depicts the level of talent, what type of person is going to come through this hiring process. If you're injecting the wrong type of people, guess what? You're going to bring on the wrong hire right here. Right? So let's clean this up a little bit so we can view it from a funnel perspective. So as I say, the first step is the job description. So from here, we go on to step 2. Now, step 2 is essentially, and this is quite self-explanatory, but it's part of the funnel, right? So step 2, and this is my attempt of drawing an eyeball here, okay? So step 2, okay, is candidates. Now, what I mean by this is essentially getting candidates' eyes on your job description, okay? Now, as I say, it's this section right here, right? That's really, really important in terms of enabling you to make a great hiring decision. Because if these eyeballs that you're getting on your job description are the wrong type of eyeballs, then as I say, you're never going to be able to make the right hiring decision. So this is why, as I say, the job description, most important part. And then from there, when it comes to getting candidates' eyes onto your job description, onto the job offering, that's where now you're going to be able to, attract that right type of, the right type of talent that we're trying to go after. We want A1 players on our team. We want that top tier talent. But if you don't position your agency in a way that's going to attract that top tier talent, then guess what? They're never going to see it. And even if they do see it, they're just going to scroll straight past it. They're not even going to, take a second look, because it doesn't sell them on your agency's mission or anything like that, right? It doesn't get them excited. Now, A1 talent is not going to work with you, right? They're also not going to come work with you if their personal values don't align with your company's values, right? All these things come into play. How much do you reckon A1 talent is going to resonate with a job posting that's just, we're looking for an e-commerce media buyer? They're not. Right? And so I know this is slightly higher concepts and slightly higher level ideas and whatnot. But if you guys are wanting to ever scale past 10,000 a month with your agency, this is stuff you have to start to take into account, because if you don't, you're going to experience a severe cap within your agency. Okay. So next from here, the third step within this hiring funnel is an application form. This right here is my attempt of drawing an application form. Right? So this is one of the biggest ways that you're going to start to be able to funnel down the traffic. So as I said before, you want to, position the funnel, right, in a way where it's going to basically filter down people at each and every stage so that you inevitably get left with this perfect person right here. Now, as I say, a big part of that is this application form right here. So essentially in the application form, because essentially, this section right here, right, and this section right here, this is going to attract anybody and everybody. Obviously, it's going to be somewhat dependent on where you put your job description, where you put the offering, right? So you're going to be able to somewhat almost target those who see the job posting. But at the end of the day, if you put it on Upwork, if you put it in in Facebook groups or whatever it is, there's so many people in there, and so many people are going to see that. And if you, guys, honestly, if you structure this job posting correctly, you are going to attract so much traffic. You're going to attract so many people who are going to inevitably read it, and because you've structured it correctly, they're going to want to work with you. Now, you don't want to work with anyone and everyone, right? So you need to filter them down. So once they see the job description, essentially on the job description, right, you want a CTA, which takes them to this application form. And it's in this application form that you're able to then start to get a good pulse on what type of people are applying, and also each individual person, what are they like, right? From the questions that you ask. Now, I'm not going to go into specifics for questions and stuff like that. That's kind of more safe for Centurion Agency, where it's, where we dig deep into this stuff in tremendous detail. However, just know that you need to ask questions that kind of, almost pull back the layer on the person who's applying. It kind of pulls back the curtains a little bit. Obviously, you can only do so much with questions, with written questions like that. But, you want to try and pull back the curtain a little bit on their personality, who they are, where they're at currently right now, where they want to get to, what are their dreams, what do they want in the coming few years? Do they want to build their own agency? If so, they're not going to be a good fit for you, right? Stuff like that. And that's where you're able to really, get a good pulse on them via this application. And then from there, as I say, we want to then filter down even more. So that's where we go on to now step 4, which is the Zoom interview. Okay, so now you're going to basically be able to filter all of the candidates that come through this section here and this section here. You're going to be able to filter them down to maybe 10, 15, 20, 30, it depends what scale you do this at, but you're going to, filter it down via this application form right here to maybe 10, 15, 20 interviews. So the way that you basically decide who gets on an interview with you is just simply whose applications look good. And also something else that's very, very, it's a very, very good indicator to people's work ethic and their personality and whatnot. It's just the level of depth that they go into when answering questions. If they give you a one-line answer, guess what? They're not going to be a good fit, because if they can't even be bothered to give you a detailed description on a question that you've asked, right? A detailed answer to a question that you've asked, they're not going to be a good fit. They're not going to go above and beyond within your agency. They're not going to do, they're not going to push the limits on what's possible for your agency if they can't even be bothered to do a 4, 5, 6 line answer, yet they just do yes, right? They're just not a good fit. So once you've detailed, as I say, 10, 15, 20, maybe even 5, doesn't really matter too much. You want to try and obviously get as many people through this process here as possible, because that's just basically going to enable you to have more choice, right? When it comes to making your perfect decision right here. However, as I say, you then filter that down into a Zoom interview. Now, again, I'm not going to go too in depth in terms of, how to conduct the Zoom interview and whatnot, but essentially there's one overarching goal that you want to achieve with this Zoom interview here, which is essentially to be able to identify out of the candidates who you had a Zoom interview with, you want to identify anywhere from, and again, the specific numbers aren't that important, but you want to identify a group. I usually say probably 2 to 5, roughly 2 to 5 perfect candidates. These are people who you would literally bring onto your team, right? When I did this, I went through this exact process. As I say, guys, this is real life stuff, right? I went through this exact process probably around 3 months ago at this point, I think. It was like the start of the year, back end of start of this year. And I filtered down, I think I had around like 25 interviews, something like that, through this exact process. And I filtered that down to 8 perfect candidates in this section here. So I had the Zoom interview with around, I think my numbers were around 25 people, right? I think I had around, at this stage here, I had roughly, I think it was like 50 to 55 roughly application forms. I filtered that down. It was roughly half, as you can see here. I hopped on a Zoom interview with around 25 potential candidates. I then filtered that down. My numbers here at this stage was around 8, as I mentioned. And so those 8 candidates were literally people who I would have brought onto my team. Now, I was only looking to fill 1 position. I only needed to hire 1 new media buyer. I didn't need to hire 8. So obviously, I then had to, filter that group of people down even further. But as I say, you want to get to a point where you've literally got anywhere from 2 to 5, depending on the scale that you do. And obviously, it's going to be depending on the quality of people that come through the funnel initially. As I say, you want to filter it down to 2 to 5 perfect candidates. And actually, with these 8 candidates, as I say here, I had 8 people who were literally perfect. I would have brought onto my team, but I only needed to hire 1. So these people, I actually gave straight to Centurion agency students. So now they've literally got a list of people, right? Just from one hiring process that I did, they've got a list of media buyers now who they can just literally hit up. And they've been personally vetted by myself. And as I say, I would have literally brought them on board to my own team. Right, so all Centurion agency students get access to these pre-vetted media buyers. And also, as I say, that was just from one hiring process that I went through. So now every future hiring process that I go through, all the candidates who are literally perfect fits, but I don't bring on board, I just give to all Centurion agency students. Now, with that being said, as I said before, if you're going to go through this process, then you're literally going to be left with 2 to 5 people who are perfect fits. Now, what do? How do you take that down to just 1 person who you end up bringing on board full-time as a hire? Well, what you now do is once you've identified these people here, you then conduct a second interview. And on this interview, you're going to dig deeper into them as a person, okay? The reason they're going to be a good fit originally by virtue of that first interview is because you know that they're, a good fit from a personality standpoint. They're a good cultural fit somewhat, right? They're a somewhat good cultural fit at that point. You know that they're pretty well versed on whatever the job role is. In this case, we're talking about a media buyer. So you know that they can run ads effectively. You know that they're very data driven, that you know that they're hopefully a good copywriter and whatnot. So in this second interview, you're going to dig deeper into who is the most perfect. I'm talking perfect now, not just a good cultural fit. I'm talking perfect cultural fit, right? Who is the perfect person? Who do you like the most? That's another question that you got to ask yourself. Who do you really, really enjoy speaking with? Because you're going to end up having daily team calls, right? Once you get to a certain stage, maybe you've already got it, but definitely once you get past 10,000 a month, you're going to have a daily team call with your team. So you need to ensure that you actually like those who are on your team. And so this is where you're now going to dig deep into those traits, right? More a cultural standpoint, more them as a person, more their personal dreams and desires and what do they want to do and, you know, where are they currently at and stuff like that. That's what you want to dig deep into specifically. You know, you want to touch on this in the first interactions that you have with the potential candidate, but you want to dig deep into that side of things on the second interview. And from here, guess what the 7th step is? All you're now left with is to make your hiring decision. That's it. You take this 2 to 5 here, 2 to 5 people, and you funnel it down into your new hire. That is the hiring process. Now, of course, guys, it does go deeper at each stage, right? You've got, you know, at this stage here, I mean, this is, as I said to you before, the first stage is the biggest stage. This is going to have the biggest impact on the quality, the caliber of team members whom you bring on board. Obviously, then candidates, where you put it and whatnot. Again, you know, I'm not going to go into specifics here, but this is very, very important as well, because where you put it is going to depict what type of person comes through. And then obviously, as I say, that's where that ties directly in with the job post, because the job post is going to speak and resonate with a different type of person, depending on how you structure it. All right. So obviously that's extremely important. Then you got step 3 here, which is the application form. Okay. And then obviously step 4, now this is obviously the interview section. And again, there's a certain way to structure the interview. So as I say, things do go in depth, right? Step 5 is to identify your perfect 2 to 5 perfect candidates. Step 6 is to go deeper into those candidates, see who is the perfect cultural fit. And then obviously step 7 here is to make your hiring decision, and you use all of the information that you've gathered, you know, from these steps up here, right? You use all of this information plus a couple other things. For example, in the hiring process that I conduct, that I go through in Centurion Agency in a lot more detail, obviously, than this, you know, we do personality tests as well, right? We put candidates through personality tests to really see if they are a good fit. So, you know, things do go deeper, but obviously, as I mentioned, in order to make an effective hiring decision, you've got to use all of the information that you've collated, as I mentioned, from all of these other steps to inform that decision so that you make the right decision straight off the bat and you don't need to, you know, fire and rehire and whatnot. So overall, this is the hiring process. I hope that makes sense. I hope it brings more clarity around the specifics and the logistics of hiring and the actual funnel that you want to take candidates through and how you structure it, you know, to ensure that they're the perfect fit for your team. As I say, I hope it all makes sense. If it did, if you found value, as always, guys, please go ahead, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Massively helps out with the YouTube algorithm, and I deeply, deeply appreciate you watching. I hope you found value in it. With that being said, I will see you in the next video.